This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
There's nothing new to report. I continue to love what I do. I continue to be energized, and I do acknowledge that age at some point, I suppose, can become a factor. But as I sit here today with you, it's not. Sorry to disappoint.
Gary Bettman right there during his, they don't call it the State of the League address, but that's what it is. Every, professional league does this, usually leading up to the final. That's Gary Bettman on the potential succession plans for him to retire as commissioner. It's been around since 1992, Jim Toth.
How many years is that?
33.
33 years.
I know
so
that.
I might as well make it an even 35, eh?
Yeah.
We did pension just there. What's the pension in the NHL commissioner? How many years does he put in before he maxes out?
Oh, that's what he's holding out for, maybe.
At a couple six-figure sheets per year.
You know what? I can get to 35 easy, but if I get to 40, then I'll get the full. I'll get the full thing.
40, I get the whole $32,000 a year.
I only got a taste of sugar, but I wanted the whole beehive. He wanted the whole beehive.
You know what's lost in this? And this is why, people go, why would he want to do it? He plays the villain well, right? He's accepted his role.
He loves it.
He loves it a little. You're right. Yeah. He loves it a little bit. The fact that he's doing what the owners want. He knows he's got the full backing of the owners. When he goes out there and he says, well, we're having a lockout or we're doing this and we can't continue. And the best back and forth I ever saw with Gary Bettman was with Ron McLean at the All-Star game. And it used to be he would sit down and it became a State of the Union address almost. But to Ron's credit, he would, at the All-Star game is supposed to be fun. He would hammer him. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time he was talking attendance with him. And this is years ago. And he said, well, what about Detroit? He goes, everything's fine in Detroit. Everything's sold out. They're sold out in Detroit. And he said, Gary, they're sold out and only 9,000 people are showing up to the games. That's a problem. And I was like, good for you, Ron, right? You're looking at the numbers and you're going, well, there's 18,000 or whatever the old Joe Louis would hold. But when you have tickets sold and people aren't using them, that is a problem. Mm-hmm. And Gary was just trying to go the bill. There's no problem in Detroit. And I thought there was really good back and forth during those. And he would embrace that. He'd be like, all right, Ron, I know that after a couple of years, he'd be like, I know, Ron, you like to make the All-Star game into an Inquisition. And
yeah.
Well, I don't, Gary, and then they would go at it. But look, I think what's lost in this too is commissioners. So there's a lot of meals that are paid for. There's a lot of flights that are paid for, the hotels. He's not sitting in his office in New York, and maybe he's paying for his own lunch. I don't know. But when he's at the Stanley Cup Finals yesterday, there's a pretty elaborate dinner. It's a good gig is what I'm saying.
Well, I remember
you have to put up with being the heel, but it's a pretty good posh gig.
Yeah, and I remember when the Jets returned, I remember he brought his family to Winnipeg to take that game in. I remember they had seats and stuff, and I'm sure his family tags along. Hey,
There's
come
a plane
and check
that
this
flies
out.
him around.
That's right.
He's not getting on first class on WestJet.
Bettman is, you look at Roger Goodell at the NFL. Roger Goodell does not like to be the villain.
No.
I don't believe that for 1 second. He does not like to be criticized. He doesn't like that. And Bettman handles it totally differently. But he handles it well.
The NFL is a different animal in the fact that they can be. They're the most powerful sport entity on the planet, other than maybe the EPL.
Well, look what they did to the NBA on Christmas. They're like, yeah, you guys like having Christmas? That's your NBA day? Well, we're going to take it from you.
The line of the movie, right?
Yeah.
You're dealing with somebody that's so powerful they created their own day of the week.
Yeah.
But you're right. He likes to be like Gary. Whether you like Gary or not, you have to respect the fact that he doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
You think I'm a whatever, I don't care. And yet Roger cares. Roger wants to, but the whole NFL likes to have this umbrella of beauty around it, right? When in reality, it's there's nothing wrong with our game. Well, there's a couple things. Everybody loves our game. Every All-American child wants to grow up and play in the National Football League and get their brains bashed in and their Achilles torn out and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But you don't feel that way, right? The NHL is hard-nosed, tough. It's in your face, and it's an honest league. It's an honest, and Gary's on it. He's like, I don't care being the villain, and I'll say no, and I'll fight and argue with you. But yeah, you're right. The NFL doesn't like to do that. The NFL likes to have a perception of everything's great. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method at 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later on in the program. Coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. Try the new triple pep pizza only at Boston Pizza. Let's we'll swing back to, and that'll be the topic of the show here. We'll go back and look at some of the conversations, some of the topics that came out in the State of the League address. But we might be co-opted at 12:45. There's a scheduled 12:45 wildfire update today, this afternoon. So we might be having to cut the show a little early to bring you that live. Of course, far more important than Jim and I yammering on about hockey here. So Manitoba Day of Caring for Wildfire Evacuees is also ongoing in support of the Canadian Red Cross and the 2025 Manitoba Wildfire Appeal. Money raised goes to emergency assistance, lodging, medical care, supplies, recovery support, future preparedness for impacted communities. Federal and provincial governments have also confirmed that they will each match dollars, so donations are 3 times matched. How to give, go to give.redcross.ca or text the word radio to 20222. So 20222 to donate $10. So just wanted to make sure you're all aware. Of that. Do you think it's time for Bettman to retire? Do you think there needs to be some new blood? I think that Bettman was very disliked in this city, in this province, I believe, up until the Jets came back. And now I think a lot of people in Winnipeg have a more favorable opinion of him than not. And if you disagree with what I said, text the show 204-780-6860. But that's my feeling, at least. Yeah, I don't know if it's time. I mean, the league's never been healthier. It's never had more talent in it. You can't say he's done a bad job. I would say they went through some stuff they had to have some work stoppages and a cap brought in and to get to this place. But look, has the talent ever been higher? Has there ever been an era where there's been more actual talent in the league? And I know some people are going to go, well, Bobby Orr, and I know some people are going to go, well, the Gretzkys and the Messiers. And no, I'm talking about throughout the league talent. Like in the 80s, when Gretzky and the Jets and the Flames are going at it, there was a lot of teams that didn't have any talent. Another thing, too, I would look at is look at the barns across the league. I should say, yeah, look at the barns across the league, right? Utah's playing temporarily in a basketball complex, but they're building a new one in Salt Lake City. The Flames are getting their new rink. It's being built right now. I saw it when I was in Calgary earlier this spring. If you look at the facilities that the National Hockey League teams are playing in, if you look at the health of the franchises that exist right now that Arizona's gone, now that international hockey is back on the menu here, which I think was probably the biggest slight against the ownership and Gary Bettman, so they couldn't get international hockey back up and running for the fans and for the players. The league's in a real good spot right now, and it is in a position to grow and to expand. And this is something that Bill Daly, a deputy commissioner, spoke on in terms of further expansion.
We've gotten a lot of interest in people and markets who want to host NHL cities, and we take a lot of meetings about them. We've decided we're not going to engage in a formal expansion process, but if somebody wants to essentially apply for an expansion franchise and has all the requisite elements that we would look for in an expansion franchise, we would raise it with the Board of Governors, see if they have any interest in it. There are some people we've talked to more than others. But there's a lot of interest, which I think we're gratified by.
Yeah, I mean the expansion cities, you'd have to think, because of the East-West balance, which is something they've discussed, if they would put 2 teams, they do one in the West, one in the East. That has to be Atlanta. They are going to go back to Atlanta, and probably Houston if there isn't a rink for a team to return to Arizona, which I believe they will eventually. I think Houston and Arizona for sure, and then I don't know if there's a Quebec City. It's what? It's almost a pipe dream at this point. When I've delved into the Quebec City, there's a lot of things that went into Winnipeg getting the team back,
And there's a lot of things that in this day and age, like they would not have.
Yeah.
The team would not have come from Atlanta to Winnipeg. They were under the gun. There was owners who literally said keys on the table. If there was a due diligent process to moving Atlanta, as in Atlanta's going to play one more year and then they're going somewhere and we have 18 months to figure out, I don't think the Jets would be here from what I've found out and stuff. But the idea that 7 or 9 owners all threw the keys on the table and said, take it, we're not coming back. Nobody's going to run this as of now.
Similar to...
Then they were waiting, right? Like Bettman was forced to just pick up the phone and go, Mark, you want this? And it took about a week for them to, obviously they wanted it, but can we do this? Can we do it for next season? Like people forget that thing came here May 31st and started in September. Right?
It's very similar to Salt Lake, right?
Well, yeah,
and they had even more time to deal.
They had more time, and so.
But most ownership groups or people who want to own a professional sports team would not do something like that. But when you have people that are like the Ryan Smiths and the Utah Hockey Club, and now what are they, the Mammoths now?
Yeah, and this is the point of Gary Bettman doing a good job. There was a time where they would call cities and go, we have an issue here in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And Mario would be seen outside an arena in Kansas City, Missouri, trying to put pressure on Pittsburgh to keep the team because they didn't really want to keep it.
People don't remember this. Daryl Cates, the owner of the Oilers, was in Seattle scouting things out when he was trying to get a new rink built.
And now we're at a point where there are cities calling and asking meetings and saying, what would it take for us to get a team? So that's in itself success under Bettman, right? But it hasn't always been smooth, and they've had to go through some things. But that's why I don't think Quebec City will ever get a team, because whenever a team is decided from now on, it won't be keys are on the table. We need to put a team somewhere and have it functioning within 4 months. And Mark's great work, Mark Chipman, was the idea that I'm going to be locked, loaded, and ready, as I have been for the past 7 years, running this like an NHL franchise in case something comes up. I don't know if Quebec is locked, loaded, and ready right now, but the idea that somebody's going to need to be somewhere within months isn't going to happen.
They would have to operate like the Quebec Remparts. I mean, who even owns the Remparts?
Quebec,
right?
No, but the problem is so say you want to expand. Well, now you have Quebec going up against Houston and Atlanta, and Portland, Oregon would love a team. Portland, Oregon has for a long time talked to the NHL and wanted to bring a franchise there. You look at the success of the Thunder. If the Thunder win this NBA title, Oklahoma City now becomes a major sports. So it just, with those parameters, I feel bad for Quebec because I'm not saying Winnipeg and True North don't deserve the team. They do. They did their due diligence for years in case something came up to it. But the circumstances around the way Atlanta came available benefited the team coming here just as much as them being as ready and prepared as they could be.
Let's take a break. Let's come back on the other side. We'll discuss more about, you know what? We'll talk about game one. We got to squeeze in some game one. Oilers winning 4-3 in overtime yesterday.
I'm just sick of them. I don't think they get relegated.
We'll talk about that. And the NHL expanding Hawkeye technology, Jim. I'm not talking about MASH.
Hawkeye. I think this is great, actually.
A new partnership with Sony. I'll tell you what that is when we come back.
Hi, this is Mark Chipman from the Winnipeg Jets. Thank you for joining us on this Manitoba Day of Caring for wildfire evacuees. Together, we can make sure that every displaced family has what they need now and for when they return to their homes. Please donate what you can to the Red Cross effort. Thank you.
That was, of course, Mark Chipman, and you can donate by going to give.redcross.ca or text the word radio or text the word radio to 20222 to donate $10. All money raised is going to emergency assistance, lodging, medical care, supplies, recovery support, future preparedness for impacted communities. Federal and provincial government are going to match each dollar. So each donation, if you donate $1, it's going to be $3. There's a wildfire update also coming up at 12:45, which might take us away from the show early, just so you're aware, on the Manitoba Day of Caring for Wildfire Evacuees. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new Triple Pep Pizza and Double Trouble Nachos. Available only now at Boston Pizza. So, Jim, the NHL is expanding its use of Hawkeye technology through a new partnership with Sony, the system best known for calling balls and strikes in tennis, as well as a system used to determine when the ball crosses the line in soccer, in Series A in Italy, in the Premier League in England. It's been in England since 2013-14, and the Bundesliga in Germany. The league says it could lead to more precise decisions on goals, penalties, and player positioning, obviously on faceoffs and things like that. What do you think about this, Jim? Initially, too little, too late, or better late than never? Or what are your general thoughts on it? Got about 20 seconds here.
Fully support it if the Flames get the 2004 Stanley Cup from Tampa Bay.
Last time I checked,
that goal was in by Jelena. He was the eliminator.
Not according to the National Hockey League. That
Habby Boulin's pad was well into the net.
The Boulin wall did not let that goal in, Jim.
Yes, he did.
Just look at the facts. The goal was a no goal. It was a goal.
But
hey, I'm not joking around. It was a goal.
I love this. I think that this is a great idea. I've seen it in soccer plenty of times. I think it's and tennis. I think it'll be a valuable asset.
Cole Perfetti, that probably count his goal. His goal against St. Louis probably is counted as a goal.
A Stanley Cup has been lost, and Perfetti's pride has been damaged.
Yeah, he got it back though.
Okay,
he got it back.
Yeah,
in
with
Game
1.6, right?
Technically 3 or 2.2.
This will help. We'll get the technical.
We gotta
time
go.
of that
We're
down.
late. We'll be right back. Well, let's talk play-in after this.
We had a play-in. Did you note that 3 clubs' positions in the playoffs weren't determined until the last game that they played in the regular season? We think that what we have is working very well. You can tinker with things for the sake of tinkering with things, but that's not something that I'm an advocate of.
That was Gary Bettman on an NBA-type play-in format coming to the National Hockey League. I want to get Jim's thoughts on this, but just want to get to a couple of our sponsors here first. Jets at Noon brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program as we come at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. Try the new Triple Pep Pizza only at Boston Pizza. And because we might be co-opted with a wildfire update at 12:45, scheduled for 12:45 as we continue on here at the Manitoba Day of Caring for Wildfire Evacuees in support of Canadian Red Cross and the 2025 Manitoba Wildfire Appeal. We're going to give it away a little bit early today, so make sure that we don't miss out anyone. I just sent this out, so the texter has not been able to respond to us with a name, but the texter says, you guys think Halifax could have an NHL team one day?
What was your response to that?
I said they can't even have a CFL team.
They can't even get a CFL team.
But I appreciate the text message all the same.
Yeah, it's
I appreciate. Listen, we appreciate all the opinions of all kinds. So
look, Quebec City is ready for one, but again, the other thing I didn't mention there is David Pagnato told me this on my show over a year ago now, that he said like all the advertising revenue goes to the Montreal Canadiens in the province of Quebec. Mm-hmm. And they and the NHL aren't about to split that in half or, have another team there and stuff. So there's all these factors going into it. I just think that, look, it's about reach, it's about demo, and it's about population. And cities like Houston and
TV
cities
deals,
like, yeah, that's why Portland is a great hockey city. They've been home of the Portland Winterhawks for years. There's a lot of good hockey being played in that state. That because it's a football and a baseball state predominantly, right? Mm-hmm. We don't hear about it, but they just, again, it's a smaller, they don't have the demographic base of that state or the city that people want, that the NHL wants.
Miss your chance to get your thoughts on the show today. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new Triple Pep Pizza and Double Trouble Nachos, available now only at Boston Pizza. The number one caller will be awarded a $50 gift certificate tomorrow to Boston Pizza. Play-in tournament. You think this is a good idea, or do you take what Bettman had to say there as gospel? And he's like, hey, he makes a good point.
Well, he's not wrong about what he said with the play-in this year, but I love the play-in. Like when it came into baseball, I hated it. But then you have this one game to go to a 3-game. I think it's. I've said it before. Like all you have to do is look at the NHL's regular season standings and take the 8th and 9th place team, and all you have to do is say you play a one and done game. So playoffs predominantly the regular season ends on a weekend. Mm-hmm. Predominantly start the Wednesday and the Thursday. On Monday night, you take the 9th and the 8th place team, and they have a game at the home of the 8th place, and the winner's getting on a plane and going somewhere for Wednesday or Thursday. All or nothing game.
You know what?
Who wouldn't watch that? Like on a Monday night prior to the playoffs starting, you're not going to watch a Pittsburgh and. Now, I got to look at the standings.
I wonder if it has anything to do with this. Bettman gave an update on the CBA, and he said there's no comparison to dealing with Marty Walsh versus Donald Fear, who was the old. I think this was a slight shot at him, but
Don Fear was ruthless.
Yeah, he was, and there's no comparison to previous negotiations.
I think we are having very constructive, professional, cordial dialogue. We started a little bit later than we had anticipated for a variety of reasons on both sides, so I don't have an announcement to make today that we have a deal, but we have more than a year to go, and I think we're in really good shape, having really good discussions. I think that's a testament to Marty Walsh and Ron Hainsey and the people at the Players Association who have been working tirelessly with us, whether it's Hockey Fights Cancer with the V Foundation or Four Nations. I think we're in a really good place in terms of our relationship.
It doesn't expire until September next year, 2026. But I wonder if the playing thing is just the players don't want it. And it's like, this is not something that's worth. We're having such a great negotiation. Maybe the league would like that revenue from that extra big game that everybody that loves hockey would watch and would be tuned in to watch. Maybe it's just like, that's not something we're doing real well. This is something maybe for down the road, but we're not worth, if the players don't want it, this isn't something worth to cause labor turmoil. That's just me reading the tea leaves.
There's going to be a new deal. There's not going to be any work stoppage. Everybody's making a ton of money. Everybody's happy. There's nothing to argue about. There's some things to nitpick here and there about, and that is it. Olympics, no trade clauses on contracts and all these things, but none of it is going to cease both sides, the Players Association or the NHL, in my opinion, from getting a deal. They're in too good of a spot right now to not have any concerns of a new CBA not coming. But I will say this, Cam, Columbus finished with 89 points in the East, and Montreal finished with 91. You don't think a Montreal-Columbus game in Montreal on Monday night with a winner-take-all goes to the playoffs?
Well, I would be tuned into that.
Now, the problem is Montreal is arguing, I went through 82 games, I finished 2 points higher than them, and you're telling me that because I was better than them in the regular season that I now have to risk my entire season on a one-game done? Mm-hmm. And you have to say, yeah, you should have finished 7th.
Wildfire update might be coming at 12:45. It is on time. You might not hear us come back, but we'll come in. I'll just chirp in as we do the Manitoba Day of Caring wildfire evacuees in support of the Canadian Red Cross in the 2025 Manitoba Wildfire Appeal. How to give, go to give.redcross.ca or text the word radio to 2022 or 20222 to donate $10. Come back. We'll talk about game one. Don't go anywhere.
Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
So we are awaiting a wildfire update, which is scheduled to start at 12:45, which is right now. So as soon as that begins, we will bring that to you. Get to game one in just a second here. But Jim, there's some news coming down the pipe.
Well, yesterday, the Colorado Avalanche signed center Brock Nelson to a 3-year deal at 34 years old, worth $7.5 million per. Now, we were talking, had he come here, could you re-sign him if that trade was done? And we were talking around the trade deadline that, you'd have to keep him at $7 to $8 million. I'd keep him at $7 million. He stays in Colorado. So first of all, he turned down a trade to Winnipeg at the deadline. He wanted to go to Colorado, and now that he's there, he's re-signed there. $7.5 million for the next 3 years. So he'll be their number 2 center.
All right. So that makes a lot more sense why he wanted to go to a place where he went to Colorado instead of Winnipeg, despite a decision there. If he's going to stay there for that, he's going to make it his new hockey home. But anyways, game one, Jim. Let's squeeze it in here before, if and when we get pulled away for the wildfire update here.
Yeah, so I was impressed, right? I mean, the Oilers are down 3-1 on home ice. if I'm the Florida Panthers, I think you got to close that out. I know it was 3-2 after 2, and then the Oilers scored early into the third period, and then it went to overtime. The overtime was fantastic. Like I was watching that game and at that speed, and I was like, there's a couple of teams in the National Hockey League that can't play this fast. So they were going at it. Like there was none of this, let's not make a mistake and hope to get one. It was they were going toe to toe. In the end, you take a penalty and the power play comes through for the Oilers. That I know the McDavid saucer pass over the stick to Draisaitl was amazing, but so was Corey Perry's play, that pass to Connor McDavid. And that's who McDavid looked at when the goal went in, right, and pointed to. But that sauce pass through the slot there, or through the front of the net to Draisaitl was unbelievable. But really good hockey. Bobrovsky was sensational. But I think we could all tell Edmonton's got a chip on their shoulder. Like they knew it's going to take an extra effort, and I thought they had it last night. I thought but like I said, Florida's up 3-1, so I still think it's going to be a 6 or 7 game series. And I think even if Florida loses game 2, you can go to Florida and win 2 in a row. Yeah. But this is phenomenal hockey at this stage for guys who've been off for close to a week, and to play at that tempo in the overtime is pretty impressive.
Superstars on both sides. Do you think that it should have been this long of a wait? Like, I mean, these guys should have started 5 days ago.
That's what I wonder. I think you could have started on Tuesday or Monday or whatever. I mean, Monday night, there wasn't a lot going on in sports that you could have had total billing.
Absolutely.
The NBA final starts tonight, so now you got that going on as well. You could have got 2 games in before the NBA finals start. But then again, I look at the quality of hockey, and maybe they needed that much of a break to get that quality on the ice.
Here was something else that Bettman was discussing in the quote-unquote state of the league about extending OT to eliminate shootouts.
At the end of the day, I think this past year, 72% of the games that went into overtime were decided. So we're talking about 28%. We believe that what we're doing now makes the most sense. To extend overtime risks injury and fatigue, and we don't think it's necessary. And I think there are lots of fans who demonstrate during the shootouts by everybody standing up in the building that it's an interesting and exciting way to decide some number of regular season games, not an overly burdensome number, and it's not anything that we would ever or have ever considered for the playoffs.
Yeah, you cannot do that in the playoffs. I don't think there's 3-on-3. I don't think there's shootouts. I think you have to keep it exactly the way it is. And, just look at the moments that are, look at last night and all that, when it's 5-on-5 throughout overtime, and it's the golden goal that takes things to the next level. I don't think you touch that. And what do you have any thoughts about 10-minute 3-on-3, Jim? I think fans in the building, as Bettman said, stand up. I think they enjoy the shootout. I don't mind the shootout when it happens, what he said, 28% of the time. That doesn't bother me too much. It doesn't bother me too much.
I don't mind the shootout either. I know it's a skills competition, and coaches often just throw out whoever, because at that point. Yeah. But look, it gets people out of their seats, right? Again, this all started in the 90s when I went to an Oilers Anaheim game, and the game ended 2-1. Anaheim had 2 goals, I think, from Solani and Correa with the last 4 minutes of the game, and the shots ended 17-16. And the ticket was $300 in the 90s. And I was like, so when they said shootout, I'm like, now say that goes to a shootout. I'm like, that's more worth it than watching 2 teams put a 16 and 17 shots on net and then get a lucky bounce to end a 1-1 tie. Mm-hmm. And then the shootout came in and everybody came out of their seats to watch it. So I think the overtime, if there was 8 minutes of overtime, I would love it. Mm-hmm. If there was 10 minutes, I would love it. But I also don't mind the 5 in a shootout. I think it's all part that gets people.
Well, they tested it out. This is an issue. And again, this goes back to the CBA negotiations. This is a star player, because if this would go 5-on-5, the bench would seriously shorten. And it looks